This video is sponsored by Skillshare. A couple months ago, I did a video taking a look back at Chappelle's show to see if Dave Chappelle's controversial humor from that time held up to today's standards. And in some cases, the sketches were kind of cringe, and there's a lot of toilet humor, which isn't really my thing. But overall, I was surprised at how much I still enjoyed it and how much I appreciated his often still applicable social commentary. This is a follow-up video to that in which I intend to continue my discussion about Chappelle's show. Now, when I was younger, I remember liking the second season of the show much more than the first season. And I still think that most of my favorite sketches are in the second season, but spoilers, I'm not so sure I think it's overall better after this recent rewatch, but I'll talk more about that as the video goes on. So let's chat about the second season of Chappelle's show. Hi, I'm T1J.
Follow me.
This video, like all my videos, would not be possible without my members and patrons, including homies like Al Swigert, Frank Marias, Sean, and Mel Howard. If you think my content brings you value, consider becoming a homie yourself by clicking the join button below the video or by checking out my page on Patreon. The first season of Chappelle's show was widely praised, but it was also heavily criticized, both by conservatives who were uncomfortable with all of the poop jokes, but also from some progressive viewers who were concerned that Chappelle was doing more to reinforce negative stereotypes than to satirize them. And from the very start of the second season, we see that Chappelle has leaned into this notoriety. In fact, Chappelle makes comments in several episodes referencing some of the negative feedback that he's received.
America's #1 source for offensive comedy.
It's a little jarring, actually. It's like he feels the need to constantly remind his audience that he's just joking around and they shouldn't take him too seriously. But the fact that he brings it up so many times makes me wonder if the audience is who he's really trying to convince.
Take it easy. I was joking around.
We don't really have to speculate about this too much because Dave Chappelle would go on to later admit to Oprah that he did have some concerns about the sketches he was making.
I was doing sketches that were funny, but socially irresponsible.
In spite of some of the feedback that he received, he clearly had no intention of holding back or toning down his season 2 sketches. Largely, season 2 of Chappelle's show has the same feel as season 1, a blend of commentary, social satire, and absurd, silly humor, which is very often either about body parts or body functions. There are some slight differences. The sketches clearly have bigger budgets now, and there are more celebrity guests like John Mayer and Snoop Dogg. In season 2, we also see Dave Chappelle interact with his studio audience a little bit more. In the first season, he mostly just introduces the sketches, but in season 2, there's more stand-up and banter and even a few unscripted moments. You know, I've always thought the setup for this show is kind of weird. Like, there's a host and an audience, but 99% of the sketches are pre-recorded and shown to the audience on the screen. So it's almost like these people came out to the studio just to watch TV. Even so, the success of Chappelle's show resulted in other shows basically copying its format, shows like Mind of Mencia and Key and Peele. Both shows that, not so surprisingly, also focused heavily on race and social commentary. Another difference is that the show is a little more loose and experimental with its format in the second season. I mentioned in my last video that the setup for almost every episode is 3 or 4 warm-up sketches with a longer, more substantive sketch at the end. This holds true in season 2, except some episodes have a bit of a twist. In one episode, the main sketch isn't even a sketch. It's a unscripted game show segment called I Know Black People, in which Chappelle quizzes contestants about Black culture and slang, and is actually one of the most entertaining parts of the season.
Big Daddy Kane would say it ain't easy.
Pimping ain't easy, he is correct.
There's another one which almost feels like a filler episode where Dave spends the entire runtime sharing snippets of previously filmed sketches that he claims either didn't work or he couldn't get away with. And to be fair, these sketches are definitely weird as fuck. There's the Nelson Mandela boot camp sketch, which you just have to watch it. It can't be explained with words. That sketch stars Sally Jesse Raphael, which kind of made me feel old because I'm certain that a lot of you don't even know who that is. This episode also features the return of the player haters from season 1, who are now called the Time Haters, and they travel through time and fuck up Hitler and kill slave drivers. But all of the sketches on Chappelle's Show are at least a little bizarre, so I'm not sure why these specifically didn't work. So the first season kicked off with the incredibly bold Clayton Bigsby black white supremacist sketch, which I mentioned in my last video was a fan favorite. And season 2 opens with another memorable sketch, the racial draft. The sketch mimics a production for an NFL or NBA draft, except in this case, representatives from each race are drafting multiracial or multicultural people to become official members of one race. Tiger Woods is drafted by the black delegation, while the Jewish people select Lenny Kravitz. This is another one of those sketches that I can't imagine anyone except Dave Chappelle and Neil Brennan making. But it's somewhat remarkable because discussions about multiracial identity and how weird and confusing that can be are often absent from conversations about race. As a society, I feel like we still really don't know how to handle biracial individuals. We have this inclination to want to put people into boxes or even claim people as our own, but the experiences of those people are much more complicated than that. Not that the sketch really digs too deep into the issue at all, but it's interesting that they brought it up at all. The racial draft sketch showed audiences that Chappelle's brand of edgy humor had not been watered down. But as the first major sketch of the second series, it didn't have the same shock as the Clayton Bigsby sketch did. Now, you might think that's because we've already seen a full season, we're desensitized, we already know what to expect from Chappelle's Show. So the astonishment that we got from Clayton Bigsby may be unlikely to occur again. But by the very next episode of season 2, this is proven absolutely wrong. The main sketch of the second episode is so wild, I'm not even sure I can talk about it without getting demonetized. I mentioned how the Clayton Bigsby sketch contains gratuitous use of the N-word. Well, Dave Chappelle saw that and said, "Hold my beer." To himself, I guess. The sketch in question is a parody of 50s sitcoms about super wholesome white families, except this white family has the surname. It's the N-word, except with an A instead of an E. I'm still gonna censor it though, just to be safe. Now, when I was younger, this sketch made me feel super uncomfortable. It is basically 5 minutes of white people saying the N-word with a hard R over and over again. And that is indeed the main joke of the sketch, hearing white people say the N-word over and over, except in this fictional, non-offensive context.
Jenny has a date tonight with a boy from school.
What?
That's his name, Timmy.
Oh, of course. That
But watching it now, I kind of have a renewed appreciation for it. Chappelle's obviously being goofy and intentionally provocative as usual, but he's also commenting on language and how the same word or phrase can have a completely different effect in a different context. An interesting thing about this sketch is that it's not some fictional universe where the real N-word had never been invented. There's a part in the sketch where a black couple thinks they're being insulted, but it's just a reference to the white family.
Oh, hello, little. These are the I was telling you about.
So this implies that this happy-go-lucky white family is either ignorant of or apathetic to the history of the word that has become their family name. And that's a pretty straightforward commentary in and of itself. The final sting of the sketch is when the are visited by a non-white couple who also happens to have a racial slur as a last name. I feel like this is kind of outside the spirit of the sketch because in this case, the slur is one that might actually be used against people who look like this couple. I guess it fits the general no holds barred theme of Chappelle's Show, but I do think it kind of ruins the sketch. Now, I've mentioned throughout both of these videos that a big part of Chappelle's Show is its commentaries on society and race, but there's actually much less of that in the second season compared to the first season where there was racial commentary and humor in pretty much every episode. There is some, of course, like the family, or the aforementioned I Know Black People sketch, or the underrated Black Bush sketch that closes out the season. But in most of season 2, Chappelle focuses on zany character work and pop culture references and parodies. The highlight of season 2 is pretty clearly, in my mind, the True Hollywood Stories, in which late cast member Charlie Murphy recounts wild celebrity stories which have been confirmed to be mostly true by the people involved. And the sketch is a no doubt exaggerated dramatization of the events of the story. This led to probably the most famous Chappelle Show sketch, which involves 80s pop star Rick James, who was well known in those days for his rowdy, drug-fueled antics. Rick James is played by Chappelle himself, and when I first saw this in college, I remember thinking it was one of the all-time funniest things I'd ever seen in my life. To be fair, I was probably high when I watched it, because college. Part of the humor is how unexpected everything is. It is truly a roller coaster. So when you know what's coming, it doesn't really have the same effect, but I still enjoy the rewatch nonetheless. Interestingly, the Rick James episode starts off with a content warning, unlike any other episode. I'm not really sure why, because I don't think this episode is any more offensive than any other. I mean, a few episodes later, we literally see a puppet show his penis to a bunch of actual children. The very next episode features another True Hollywood Story, with Chappelle this time taking on the role of another 80s pop star, Prince, and it's almost as funny as the Rick James one. These two episodes back to back give off the impression that the True Hollywood Stories would become a mainstay of the show. And maybe that would have been true if the series continued for longer. But there would be no more episodes featuring Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories, which is kind of a bummer because I think those are my two favorite sketches from the entire show. The only other major highlight of the season, in my opinion, is the Wayne Brady episode, which features a sketch where Dave and Wayne hang out and Dave learns that the family-friendly image of Wayne Brady is just an act, and in reality, he is a ruthless, violent criminal. And that's the entire premise for this almost 10-minute sketch. But you gotta admit, that's comedy gold. And it works so well because Brady sells this role in a way that nobody expected at the time. We were all like, yo, the singing dude from Whose Line Is It Anyway just shot somebody. Apparently this collaboration happened because Wayne Brady took offense to a joke that comedian Paul Mooney made on an earlier episode of Chappelle's Show.
White people love Wayne Brady because he makes Brian Gumble look like Malcolm X.
So in the sketch, he gets his exaggerated, fictionalized revenge on Dave Chappelle. I guess this was Dave's olive branch, which is pretty cool. And despite portraying a pretty villainous character, I think this appearance actually helped Wayne Brady's career, showing off his range as an actor. The framing for the Wayne Brady episode is actually that Dave Chappelle quits his show and the network hires Brady to replace him. Interestingly, there's also another sketch where Chappelle imagines leaving the show. The one, of course, where he gets Oprah Winfrey pregnant and quits the show to become a wealthy stay-at-home husband. At this point, the descriptions of the sketches should not be surprising anymore. Before going to live with Oprah, Dave returns to the Chappelle Show office and enthusiastically announces his resignation, indicating that he wasn't altogether happy working there. This is intriguing, obviously, because Chappelle would abruptly quit his show in real life just a year after this aired. And some of the fictional complaints that he makes in these sketches echo some of the ones that he made in real life.
I'm working 20-hour days every day. Expect this. My resignation effective immediately. I quit.
Maybe this was an early cry for attention that Comedy Central executives weren't able to identify, or more likely ignored. Outside of what I've mentioned already, most of the sketches in season 2 are pretty forgettable, honestly. While it does have 2 or 3 of my favorite all-time Chappelle sketches, I found season 1 to just be overall more consistent. But I did kind of learn something about myself while watching these. The whole initial idea behind making these videos was to see how Dave Chappelle's crude, controversial humor would hold up by today's standards. But as I was watching, I found myself less and less interested in that. It's definitely risque, there's no denying that. And there are some cringy moments, like the love contract sketch, for example, which kind of starts off like it could be a progressive commentary about the importance of getting consent before sex. But then it's like,
the love contract, because you'd hate to catch a beef for something you know you didn't do.
oh, ew. But overall, the show is not as bad as I thought it might be. But more significantly, it just doesn't matter. It's 20-something episodes of a show from the early 2000s. If Chappelle was making a show today, he would probably do it a little differently. I hate this idea that people sometimes say, oh, they couldn't make this today. Well, maybe they shouldn't make it today. Let it be and live in its bygone era. I found myself much more interested in whether the show was actually funny or whether it made interesting commentaries. And as you'll notice, that's kind of what this video ended up being about. And despite some over-the-top moments, I think Chappelle's Show was a unique and important show, and I'm glad it was made. That's just me, though. What do you think? There was a short third season of Chappelle's Show, which featured 3 episodes of sketches that Chappelle filmed before quitting the show. I might possibly cover those in the future, but Dave Chappelle notably didn't want those sketches to be aired, which makes me think that he didn't consider them his best work. Also, those episodes are kind of hard to find these days. I think there's a DVD out there somewhere, but I'm pretty sure they've been removed from all streaming services. So I guess we'll see. But for now, I want to take this time to thank the sponsor of this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creatives offering thousands of amazing classes on topics including illustration, design, filmmaking, business, and more. And Skillshare is focused on helping you learn no matter your schedule or skill level. That means the video classes are not too long, but also well-produced and ad-free. And they're always launching new classes so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. I really enjoy the productivity category on Skillshare, as that is one of the biggest things that I've been working on recently. And I found a really cool class called Email Productivity: Work Smarter with Your Inbox by Alexandra Samuel. My email inbox is a huge mess, and Alexandra has a ton of tips about using folders and filters and spreadsheets, and I'm excited to bring a little organization into my life. If you'd like to try out this class or any of Skillshare's thousands of amazing classes, the first 1,000 of you to click the link in the description will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. So go ahead and click that link below and start learning today. And remember, by supporting sponsors like Skillshare, you not only get access to a great service, but you also support me and help me take my content to the next level.